Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It's an emergency episode of the Spartan Shadows podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Chris, joined with my co host, Emmett. Zach unfortunately couldn't make it today. Kind of a quick turnaround. Didn't really plan on recording anything tonight, but in a day filled with a ton of breaking news for MSU athletics, we figured better get on and do our due diligence and report the new stuff. Lots to talk about. We have a new athletic director. We have a new football commit. Former Spartan dog getting an NFL opportunity in the front office. Lots that is unfolded. So, Emmett, how you feeling today?
I'm doing pretty good. The green and white smoke is pouring from Beaumont Tower right now. It's official. The new athletic director has been signed officially as of about 30 minutes before we started recording this. It's 8:30 p.m. on Sunday, the 1st. So it is a very quick turnaround. Now that it's officially official, we figured we'd get in the studio and record what our thoughts are on the hiring. It's been rumored since about, 8:30, 9 a.m.
It moved fast.
Yeah, we've had about 11, 12 hours to process this and do our due diligence in seeing what a J Batt is about, the new athletic director. And there has been a lot to like and almost nothing to dislike from just reading through everything regarding fundraising and stuff, for example.
Yeah, yep, I agree. And I guess we'll start with the timeline of events. I was getting back from running errands and was working on editing and posting our weekly episode, which went up today. And Pete Thamel had came out with a story from ESPN this morning that J Batt was the front runner for the AD job, and that he expected the deal to be done. He didn't know when. He didn't know that there was a timeline. But that was just kind of the leader in the clubhouse, and they were obviously pending board of trustees approval, stuff like that. So as I was uploading everything, I had sent out some tweets on our show Twitter account saying that we'll get on and talk about it tonight. And well, things moved pretty quickly after that. An emergency session of the board of trustees was called today, as Tony Paul from the local media here, from the Detroit News, he is reporting that the board has signed off and Jay is officially going to be the next AD. He reported that his contract was going to be a 6-year deal, and then Chris Solari from the Free Press also confirming that and his salary will be $1.8 million annually, which is double what Alan Haller was making. MSU is slated to pay a $2 million buyout to Georgia Tech, as he had just signed an extension there this past December, and that is the buyout for his contract. So we are going to owe Georgia Tech $2 million for that. And yeah, that's the kind of business alongside of it. It's official. Jason Batt goes by Jay, and he will be known as Jay always, but J Batt, athletic director for Michigan State. And just my thoughts real quick, and I'll turn it over to Emmett. I think it's a great hire. We said from the get-go, it looked like somebody was going to be prioritized who's had a history of fundraising. NIL is a big part of, I guess, all of our frustrations with fans and alumni alike on how to kind of increase fundraising and sort of use the living alumni base that we have as the weapon it could be in college athletics. And we needed somebody who was going to do that, and Jay certainly fits that bill. He was able to fundraise the heck out of his alumni at Georgia Tech, setting fundraising records there each of the past couple of years, including about 70, what was it?
78 mil.
78 mil this past year, which was a record, obviously, for Georgia Tech. They have an alumni base of about 200K. Odell, Brett him on Twitter. Brett, we all know him and love him, big social media personality for MSU. I think his math was correct, but if we were to carry that figure over to MSU's alumni base, to what we have, that could equate to over 250 million in NIL fundraising, if he was able to do the same thing on the same math. Obviously, a lot to do to get to that point, but that's the kind of fundraising potential that he's given and has. He was an associate at AD at Alabama before going to Georgia Tech. He oversaw a lot of fundraising to basically renovate a lot of Alabama athletics. He was involved in hiring Nate Oates as their basketball coach. Big basketball guy, so I guess that's a good fit. Tom Izzo and him are reportedly hitting it off, or he is a fan of Tom Izzo at least, which makes sense because Nick Saban is one of his good friends, and we all know Coach Saban and Coach Izzo are good friends, so that circle there was good. The capital initiative at Bama that he spearheaded was a 10-year, $600 million initiative, and it saw those upgrades over at Bryant Denny the last few years. A lot of other stuff with Alabama athletics that he was a big part of. And then Emmett had mentioned to me before we started recording, he was on the short list of Maryland and South Carolina's AD searches this year, so other schools and other bigger schools were looking to try to poach him from Georgia Tech before the Spartans did. So all in all, I think this is a pretty great hire. Zach agrees, like he said, fortunately couldn't make it, but he immediately messaged us saying that he was a fan of the hire, and it's the type of hire that shows MSU was definitely going to take a different approach and try to align with the way the college landscape is currently. So we did, and that's the way we went. So Emmett, I'll stop rambling here. Let's hear your thoughts. J Batt, MSU AD.
So right off the bat, no pun intended, some of the things that I looked for were, in terms of fundraising, 161% increase year by year for fiscal years in the 2 full years Batt was the AD over at Georgia Tech. Obviously, great signs. And then single year record, not only did he surpass the goal, he shattered it. This is talking about the the Alexander Tharp Fund, which is Georgia Tech's athletics fundraising arm. That $78 million was a 43% increase over the previous record year, which was 2019 and 2020. He is also, in terms of what does he bring, for example, for football? That was the main complaint about Al Haller, was he didn't fundraise enough for football, despite being a football alum. The main thing that he brought, he oversaw renovations for both Georgia Tech and Alabama for their football stadiums. So the $30 million already pledged to Spartan Stadium, you could see increases in that, for example, in the immediate future. He also is part of, I want to say, the College Football Hall of Fame committee. I want to say he's the chairman there, so obviously cares a ton about football, which is one of the complaints was it seems like the athletic director does not care or is not as passionate about football. Obviously, you're going to see a different approach based on how much he has prioritized fundraising for football at his previous 2 stops, and that is something that all of the alum want to see. You want to see your football program do good, and he is going to prioritize it. Georgia Tech, the last 2 years, have gone to bowl games. Batt was the one who made the decision to remove the interim tag on Brent Keys, who is the head coach over at Tech. Keys, former Tech offensive lineman, had taken them to their first bowl game in 6 years, I believe, or 5 or 6 years. First time since 2018, and it was the 2023 season. Additionally, their first bowl win after that season, first time since 2016. So part of the turnaround, Georgia Tech obviously played a close game to Georgia last season, and so this is an athletic director that has been able to find the coach for one program and turn it around. Obviously, Jonathan Smith going into year 2, it would be remiss to not mention that his buyout is now halved with a new athletic director. Do we think he's going to move on within, for example, the next month? Absolutely not. Do we think that, especially seeing the success Brent Keys has had in years 2 and 3 at Georgia Tech, that there would be more of a fire under Jonathan Smith? Yes. And that's not to say that he's going to come in and instantly try to push out Smith. This is just something that you need to mention with a new athletic director, the buyout being halved. Just something to keep an eye on. Obviously, the Spartans wanted him bad, doubling Al Haller's salary and paying $2 million. It is clear that he checked all the boxes of being young, being a fundraiser go-getter, and in my opinion, the hidden third box that I had was not being a Spartan alum. He needs to understand the appeal to get not just your alumni to sign on to support. Yes, it helps having 550,000 alumni for Michigan State. But at the same time, you have to also be able to appeal to the people in the area. Appeal to the people who could be sending their money 45 minutes down the road to Ann Arbor. You have to be able to try to win those fans too. And obviously, if he could win it with a conference rival, he is a North Carolina alum. So if he was able to get that support able to get the record-breaking support for an ACC foe for his alma mater, obviously, he's good at his job. And for people wondering, well, what about Group of Five? What about the non-revenue sports. In his first full-time year as an athletic director, 14 of Georgia Tech's 17 programs made it to the postseason. Additionally, he does understand the importance of these non-revenue sports and these smaller sports that maybe we don't care about, maybe we don't give as much coverage to. He understands the importance of that. He is a national champion men's soccer player from UNC in 2001. So you aren't going to be able to say that this is a guy that is only, he will obviously show the priority towards the programs like what should be expected at any college in the big leagues, but he also understands the importance of your non-revenue sports, and he's not going to just let them lay waste and die. He's not going to just ignore the hockey program when they're on the brink of a national championship. I think he is going to come in, and I think this is a slam dunk hire. I said good, borderline great. Obviously, you're always going to have that concern of, yes, it's the unknown because he's done great, but Georgia Tech hasn't been a national powerhouse, but you're not going to be able to leap from a powerhouse objectively down to Michigan State. So this is a guy who is coming up the ranks, and I think this is a slam dunk hire. This is probably the most assured thing you can get as an athletic director and the most reassured you can feel for what direction your program is heading and what their goals were. I think both goals are perfectly aligned for Michigan State and the athletic department and the new AD, J Batt.
Yeah, and you want to see, obviously there's some skepticism with the unknown and how is it going to translate going from the ACC to the Big Ten, where today's college football, it's Big Ten and it's SEC. Those are the two. I know the Big 12 is still a good conference. All the other Power Four and ACC and everything, other good conferences that play.
And everything rumored. You have to look. If you want to be an athletic director making a name, you have to go Big Ten, SEC, and that is why you saw him leave Georgia Tech most likely. In addition, it's double the salary. I would say almost around double his salary. Not sure what his contract was with Georgia Tech, but I would assume double or at least 50% bonus. And for that type of money, most people would leave to a different job too if they were offered a 50% salary increase.
Yep, and like I said, this is playing in the big leagues now, so makes sense for him to want to make the move, but I'm sure some people may be a little skeptical on if he can make the jump and make it work at a big time school. But from, like I said, being at Alabama as an associate AD and everything he did there, that's one of the premier programs in both football and basketball.
And he raised that money deep in SEC country, too.
Yep,
he was
absolutely.
In Georgia. That is deep in SEC country, and you were able to rally the alums and the non-alums alike to set records for fundraising for Georgia Tech athletics.
Yeah, so I personally have no reason to think that he shouldn't be able to do it here. I will say, and I know we've talked about it on previous podcasts before, this does make the Jonathan Smith situation a little interesting. I agree with Emmett. I don't think anything's happening in the immediate. It does put a little bit more pressure for this season, though, I would say. Because if you come out and have another 4-8, 5-7 season, the alumni is not going to be happy. The board
who's promising this money and promising results and promising a change, he's not going to be happy with that result, and none of the fan base will be. And the fan base will speak with their wallets, so you would have to see a move. For example.
So you're gonna have to see on-field results. So, and with the connections like we had previously talked about, having a coach at his former job that's an up-and-coming coach who's doing well.
Also was with him at Alabama, for example, too. Keys was with Batt at Alabama. He was the offensive line coach for the Crimson Tide at that point.
And with Jonathan Smith's buyout being cut in half, you're going to have the ability to get out of that contract after this year.
Obviously, this is just speculation. This is not us saying that the program should move on from Smith. This is just something that you would have someone who can instantly be on the short list. Just like how whenever Tom Izzo retires, if J Batt's still at the helm, you could mention someone like Nate Oates being on that short list because there is a connection, there's a door open and available.
Yep, and that's been something we've talked about. I know MSU basketball fans have wanted Nate Oates as a potential successor to Tom Izzo multiple times in the past. Now you have a clear path potentially to maybe have a chance for that to happen once Tom Izzo does decide to retire. Like I said, I don't think that's happening anytime soon either, but this move sets up a lot of avenues for the future as well, is all I'm trying to say. So I think it's a great hire. I think it's something that we're going to be able to hopefully use and weaponize the fundraising ability. But so far, so good. All things seem to be moving in the right direction, and always good getting good news like that. So we will say with the new athletic director change, and this was reported a couple days ago, but after we recorded the last episode, we did get
Literally the
confirmation that,
morning after we finished recording the podcast, by the way,
yeah,
just to tell you how our life goes through the Shadows podcast. The day after
yeah,
we record, the morning after we record, less than 12 hours after we were in the studio, Darien Harris
yeah,
where Darien Harris is, his next job was announced. He was still with the program in an NIL Associate AD role. He will now be heading to the New York Giants front office, I believe, Director of Player Personnel, if you have that up.
director of player engagement.
Oh, okay.
So yep, Darien Harris was offered a job. Kind of figured he would be moving on with Alan Haller also not being around, but some people had mentioned him as a potential in-house name for AD if they were going to go in-house, even though it was looking like we probably weren't. But good to see Darien get a job in the NFL, director of player engagement. That's going to be a perfect job for him to use his capabilities at the next level. So yeah, congrats to Darien and moving on, and I think that's going to be a good hire for him. Anything else you wanted to add on that one? Emmett?
Oh, not really. Just I would like to thank Darien Harris for helping the NIL fund in the first couple years get going. Obviously, things weren't completely smooth, but nothing was really smooth for any program. And now with J Batt in place, hopefully you're going to see that next step. And it's unfortunate that Harris won't be there, but at the same time, when you get an opportunity to head to get your call to the big leagues, basically, not surprising to see the former football player, former football captain, take that jump to be in the NFL and have that option. Obviously, you have to wonder if part of it was because of the Haller situation. Based on his tweets defending him, it's obvious that Haller and Harris were close. You can't blame them, both being alumni and multi-year veterans for the football program. You can't blame them for being close, and it's good that he was sticking up for a guy he believed in. And like we said on the podcast, Haller was a great athletic director. The problem is just the fundraising element, which is unnecessary evil in today's NCAA with the new age of college athletics. Now, do I think that Harris will be able to help the Giants? That's to be determined. The Giants are a bit of a mess, but we're not a Giants podcast, so we'll leave it at that.
Absolutely. So switching over to the last bit of good news we had, like I said, it was a good news Sunday. Hopefully potentially continuing into a good news Monday, but we'll get into that in a few minutes. MSU football landed its first class of 2026 recruit today. Backer Braylon Hodge from Inglewood, Colorado. He's a linebacker. 6'3", 210, 215 pounds roughly. 24 and has was ranked as an 88 overall, ninth best player in the state of Colorado. Fringe high 3-star, low 4-star. Wouldn't surprise me by the end of the recruiting cycle if he got bumped up to a 4-star.
He's a Michigan State commit. He's going down. We saw it with Eddie
Yeah,
Whiting.
I mean, he'll get that Michigan State decrease, but he's somebody who is trending up. Had, it looks like, 11 offers so far. Most notably, Minnesota and Iowa were going really hard after him. So it was a big get for Coach Joe Rossi to convince him to not only commit, but cancel his official visits that he had lined up with them over the next couple of weeks and sign on now. So, well, not sign on, but commit now and kind of shut down his recruitment. So exciting there. He did have an official visit also scheduled with Utah. He canceled that as well. So MSU beat out some pretty decent programs to get him and landed that commitment today. So linebacking help was one of the premier needs that we've all kind of talked about as positional needs for this team, and he's a good one. He's a very good one. So I will take that commitment. Braylon, welcome to East Lansing. We're excited to have you in the green and white. Emmett, what are your thoughts on Braylon?
So the first thought, like Chris said, this was a big need for the class. Personally, I had that in defensive tackle as the biggest needs in the class of 2026 for who you want to get in the room to develop. Obviously, development is kind of a foreign concept in the transfer portal era, but that said, Jonathan Smith is more of a developer than, say, someone who's just going to reach in the portal and plug and play his needs like Mel Tucker did at points. So this development role, that is certainly something that Jonathan Smith prioritizes. And I think Hodge is a great player. I think the Spartans will likely land 2, maybe 3 players during the pot. The Spartans will likely land 2, maybe 3 players during the cycle at linebacker. I would logically say that based on the rate that linebackers are flying off the board, I think that Hodge winds up being the top linebacker and the headliner for the class for MSU. Obviously, way too early to say if he's going to be an early enrollee or not. He's still finishing his junior year of high school. But Hodge is a player that you're going to get excited for, especially with multiple Spartan targets, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Adam Shaw, Angel Luciano, Aiden Atch all announced commitments elsewhere in the Big Ten today. So you see a lot of defensive players flying off the board early, and the Spartans being able to nail down a borderline 4-star. Right now it's just his 24/7 sports rating. Not everyone has submitted rankings, so he does not have a composite quite yet. So that is just something to pay attention for in the future. Rivals, On3, ESPN all need to. I do not know which ones do and don't have ratings in for Hodge quite yet. That said, he is a player that, personally, I think that 88 rating can easily bump up 89, 90. 89 is viewed as a 4-star with 24/7, so obviously they view him high enough to put him right at that cusp, and hopefully you see him get that extra star because the fan base has been clamoring, we want a 4-star. The Spartans already have Cade Hoffman as a 4-star, and depending on the service, Eddie Whiting as a 4-star. Would love to see that linebacking, would love to see the linebackers also get a 4-star. Obviously, there's Brady Pretzloff in the room right now, redshirt freshman. DJ White comes in as a player that was 4-star on a couple recruiting services as well. There is a lot in this linebacking room that you're going to love to see come 2026, 2027. And I think that Braylon Hodge is going to be an excellent addition, and you might see him already start being a threat for playing time early. As far as some trends go, I did look. The last time I can see the Spartans having a player from Colorado was Braden Miller in the 2022 class. He has since transferred to Cal last offseason. Played in 6 games for them last year. And then as far as the linebackers go, I think I'd gotten through the 2017 class, had not saw a linebacker or defensive player from Colorado. Off the top of my head, I can say that Justin White was part of a D2 program in Colorado, but I believe Colorado Mesa, but obviously I think he was a California native. So you don't see, once again, this is kind of one of those tendencies things. You don't see this under Mel Tucker, Mark D'Antonio, but with Jonathan Smith having those pipelines into the out west, it's not surprising to see the Spartans going out west and landing recruits. When I talked about sorry, one sec, lost train of thought. Okay. When I talked about tendencies when we were talking about the podcast for upcoming visits during the weekend, I didn't really mention much on Braylon Hodge because he was kind of a tendency breaker. The Spartans don't really have a ton of, like I mentioned, they don't have a ton of defensive connections in Colorado in terms of previous years or previous position coaches, even Joe Rossi. But now you see that with Smith, and they found a priority target, landed him, and I think that him being the tendency breaker is a great sign for the future because I believe that Hodge has the potential to be a star at Michigan State.
Yeah, and this was a big pickup for the staff. A lot of the tendency breaking reasons are why basically. I know he's a little bit of a Western U.S. guy, and obviously Coach Smith has his connections out there, but this was viewed as a recruitment that MSU maybe didn't necessarily have the upper hand on going into official visit weekend. And not saying that they were out of it by any stretch of the imagination, but it was going to be a tall task or a feat to get him, and by all aspects they blew the official visit out of the water and really impressed him, so got him to shut down his recruitment and commit. So that's a big step for this team and a big pickup. I think it's going to be a really big piece to the puzzle, and like we said, hopefully a good anchor of the defense and maybe some more defensive commits coming at some point soon. Not sure. MSU did have 9 other kids visiting this weekend. Haven't heard a ton about individuals and how they impressed. I know Eddie Whiting had a great time. He was already an MSU commit though, so that's good that we didn't do anything to maybe ruin that, but he posted on Instagram basically saying how much fun he had on his visit and had a Drake song entitled "Do Not Disturb" as the song with it. So maybe reading in between the lines a little bit too much there, but that's a good sign. And I know he's been really active on social media and all things MSU. His mom too. I think she follows our podcasts and us. So shout out to the whole family. They're both really active on MSU social media. So good to see him on campus this weekend helping with the recruitment pitches and so far getting some early returns. Like I said, had some other talented kids on campus. Hopefully, we'll hear more good news coming in the future. Got some.
Braden Thomas, Iowa State commit, safety. He has been very active on social media, trying to drive
Mhm.
up likes and engagement and have the Spartan fan base show him some love. Hopefully, that means that he had said that it definitely moved Michigan State higher up. Now, is it enough to flip? We don't really know. Hopefully, it is. Going to be hard to prime away from Matt Campbell, but hopefully the Spartans can pitch with that closer drive. He's a Cleveland, Ohio native or Cleveland, Ohio area. So obviously that drive to Michigan State a little bit shorter than the drive to Iowa State.
Mhm.
Hopefully the Spartans can try to work some magic, get a flip there. Obviously this is all speculation. We'll probably have more news about it or more news about the general visit weekend come Thursday's podcast. Hopefully,
Yeah.
obviously, we can't speak for the future because we don't know it.
Yep, we'll update you on that on Thursday's main episode. I'll also highlight the visitors coming this upcoming weekend. We also have a couple coming to campus tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah, I believe so.
So a couple visitors midweek. So we'll try to get you some information on that, and then I'll leave a little bit of a teaser as we go to sign off here. But some potentially, I'll call it earth-shattering news could be on the horizon for MSU hockey. Nothing set in stone, but if rumors that surfaced last night from some pretty plugged-in college hockey experts, one of them being ESPN senior college hockey expert, if this comes to fruition, uh, even bigger things are destined for East Lansing and for hockey this fall. So ways to go, but obviously MSU hockey's been trending up. Potentially could be trending straight up after some things fall this way. So I'll tease that for Thursday. I'll have a little bit more and fill you guys in on Thursday's episode when we record. It is my goal to we'll record it Thursday night and then I'll hopefully have it ready to post Friday so we can get the stuff about the official visitors coming this weekend out and ready to go. So we appreciate everybody tuning in for this quick episode. It wasn't so quick, but big news happening. Good day for MSU football specifically and athletics overall too. But big 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 things are happening, I guess. We'll go with that, and we appreciate everybody tuning in. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, hit us up on socials, comment on the YouTube videos, shoot us an email, and we'll be back for Thursday's regularly scheduled program, if not before, if anything nuclear hits again for another emergency podcast. So we appreciate everybody tuning in. Emmett, thanks for joining me, and everybody have a good night, and go green.
Go white.